Imagine pouring every dollar of your life's work, $5 million, into the family you love, only to have your own son slam the door in your face, calling you a nobody. What would you do if the people you trusted most, the ones you sacrificed everything for, turned on you with lies so vicious they'd make your blood run cold? Picture the sting of betrayal, the kind that rips your heart out and leaves you questioning everything. I'm William Harper, and I was that man, blindsided by a family who took my millions and spit on my name. How far would you go to take back your life? Stick with RevengeX, because this story of money, deceit, and redemption will leave you speechless. Hit subscribe, and let's dive into the truth. Welcome to RevengeX, where electrifying stories of betrayal and triumph set your soul ablaze. We're thrilled to have you join our community of viewers who celebrate unyielding resilience and fierce courage. Hit that subscribe button to never miss a heart-pounding tale. And it'd be incredible if you smashed the like button, shared this video, or dropped a comment with the time and city or country you're watching from. Your likes, shares, and heartfelt comments are the greatest spiritual gift, the fuel that keeps this channel burning bright. Now, buckle up for a story that'll hit you right in the feels. Let's dive in. I'm William Harper, a 8-year-old man who built an empire from the ground up in the heart of Denver, Colorado. My construction company, Harper & Sons, turned dirt lots into skyscrapers, and my name carried weight in this city. I wasn't just a businessman. I was a father who poured every ounce of his heart into his family, especially my only son, Ethan. After my wife Clara passed away 10 years ago, I thought I'd found purpose in supporting Ethan and his wife Vanessa, giving them everything: money, love, a future. But on a please note, this document is being used for the purpose of inspiration and instruction. It is not to be reproduced in any form without permission from the author. It is for personal use only. The 10th of December, 2024, everything changed. Ethan's casual dismissal of my presence at their Christmas dinner shattered that illusion, revealing a betrayal so deep it tore through decades of sacrifice. This is the story of how I turned their world upside down, fueled by a pain that burned hotter than a Colorado wildfire. It was a crisp December evening, the kind where the Denver air bites your face and the city sparkles under a blanket of snow. I sat in Ethan's sprawling living room, surrounded by the luxury I'd funded: sleek leather furniture, a crystal chandelier that cost more than my first truck, and a massive Christmas tree glittering with ornaments Vanessa had to have from some fancy boutique in Aspen. The house was a monument to my generosity, a $5 million mansion in Cherry Creek, paid for with the sweat of my brow and the savings Clara and I had built over 30 years. I'd refinanced my own home 3 times, drained my retirement accounts, and taken out loans totaling $2 million to keep their dream alive. Every month, $60,000 vanished from my bank account to cover their mortgage, their endless renovations, and Vanessa's insatiable appetite for designer handbags and European vacations. I never complained. Ethan was my son, my legacy, and I'd have given my last breath to see him happy. That evening, I was sipping coffee from a mug Clara had loved, talking about the Christmas dinner I'd planned. I could make my smoked brisket this year, I said, leaning back on the couch, the memory of Clara's smile warming me despite the chill. The one with the bourbon glaze your mom couldn't get enough of. Ethan shifted uncomfortably, his eyes darting to the floor. His wife, Vanessa, was in the kitchen, her laughter floating in like a taunt. "Dad," Ethan said, his voice low, like he was confessing a crime, "you can't come to Christmas this year." The words hit like a sledgehammer. I froze, my coffee mug trembling in my hand. "What did you say?" I asked, certain I'd misheard. Ethan's face crumpled, but he didn't look at me. "Vanessa's parents are coming, and they'd prefer a more refined atmosphere. You know how they are big on their East Coast traditions. It's just easier if you're not here." Easier. The word echoed in my skull, each syllable a knife. Vanessa's parents, Richard and Eleanor Prescott, old money snobs from Connecticut who summered in Martha's Vineyard and looked at me like I was a speck of dirt on their polished loafers. I'd met them twice, and both times they'd treated me like the hired help, despite the fact that I'd bankrolled their daughter's entire lifestyle. "Easier for who?" I asked, my voice shaking with a fury I hadn't felt since Clara's cancer diagnosis. Ethan flinched, his wedding ring glinting under the chandelier's light, a ring I'd paid for with a $20,000 check. "Dad, please don't make this harder. Vanessa's parents, they want a certain vibe. You know, quiet, sophisticated. They're not into your style." My style. The words burned. My style was the grit of a man who'd clawed his way up from a one-bedroom apartment in Aurora to a construction magnate, employing over 100 people and paying millions in taxes. My style was the love that had kept Ethan fed, clothed, and educated at the best schools money could buy. My style was the $2 million I'd poured into their house, their cars, their vacations to the Maldives and Paris, while I ate canned soup in my outdated kitchen. I looked around the room, my eyes landing on the marble fireplace I'd paid to install when Vanessa decided the old one wasn't elegant enough. The silk curtains, the hardwood floors, the custom bar, every inch of this house was a testament to my sacrifice, my love, my stupidity, and now I wasn't welcome in it for Christmas. "Where am I supposed to go, Ethan?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper, the pain clawing at my chest. He shrugged, his eyes still on the floor. "Maybe Aunt Laura's? Or we could do something after New Year's. You know, when things calm down. After New Year's bracks present. Like I was a scheduling conflict, not the man who'd given everything. I stood, my knees aching from years of carrying this family's weight. My best friend, Tom Rivera, a retired contractor who'd been with me through every triumph and tragedy, had warned me about Vanessa years ago. "She's trouble, Will," he'd said over beers at our favorite dive bar. "She's got dollar signs in her eyes, and you're the bank." I'd brushed him off, blinded by love for my son. Now Tom's words echoed like a prophecy. Across the room, Vanessa's voice rang out, laughing with her friend Sophia, a socialite who thrived on gossip and betrayal. Sophia had once accidentally leaked my private complaints about Vanessa's spending tour, sparking a week-long family feud that ended with me apologizing to keep the peace. Another knife in my back. I walked to the door, my hand gripping the polished brass knob, the cold metal grounding me against the storm in my chest. "Tell Vanessa's parents," I said, my voice steady despite the rage boiling inside. "Merry Christmas." I didn't look back as I stepped into the freezing Denver night, the sound of Ethan's weak. "Dad." "Wait," swallowed by the slam of the door. In my truck, the heater roared to life, but it couldn't touch the ice in my veins. I drove through the glittering streets of Cherry Creek, past houses glowing with holiday warmth. Families gathered inside, families that didn't cast out their own. My phone buzzed, probably Ethan with his half-hearted apologies, or Vanessa with her crocodile tears. I ignored it, my mind racing with numbers. $60,000 a month. $2 million over 5 years. $500,000 for their down payment. Another $300,000 for renovations. $150,000 for Vanessa's essential shopping sprees. I'd stopped buying new clothes, skipped vacations, and eaten discount groceries to keep their fantasy alive. And for what? To be told, I didn't fit their vibe. The betrayal wasn't just Ethan's words or Vanessa's arrogance. It was the years of slights piling up Vanessa's smirks when I mispronounced a wine name at their fancy parties. Ethan's silence when her parents called my work blue-collar grunt stuff. Sophia's whispers about my tacky flannel shirts. Every dollar I'd given was a rope they used to tie me down, and every thank you was laced with pity. My heart pounded with a mix of grief and fury, the kind that makes a man want to burn the world down. Clara's memory flashed before me, her gentle smile, her pride in our simple life. She'd have been ashamed of what I'd let them do to me. But as I pulled into my driveway, the cracked asphalt, a stark contrast to their pristine estate, something shifted. The pain was still there, sharp and raw, but beneath it, a fire was growing. I wasn't just a bank account. I wasn't just an old man to be pushed aside. I was William Harper, and I'd built my life from nothing. They thought they could erase me from their perfect Christmas? They were about to learn what happens when you betray a man who's given you everything. I picked up my phone not to answer their calls, but to dial my lawyer, Daniel Brooks, a sharp young guy who'd always urged me to protect my assets. "Daniel," I said, my voice cold as the winter night, "we need to talk about some mortgage payments." The line crackled with his surprise, but I didn't care. The war had begun, and I was done playing the fool. The Denver night swallowed my truck as I drove away from Ethan's mansion, the glow of their Christmas lights fading in my rearview mirror, like a promise I'd been naive enough to believe. My hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white, as the cold reality of their betrayal churned in my gut. I wasn't just excluded from a holiday dinner. I'd been erased from my own son's life, discarded like an old tool that had outlived its usefulness. The pain was a living thing, clawing at my chest, but beneath it, a darker fire burned rage, raw and unyielding, fueled by years of swallowed insults and unacknowledged sacrifices. I'd given them everything $5 million over 5 years, my retirement, my dreams, and they'd spat in my face. But this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I pulled into a 7-Eleven parking lot on Colfax Avenue, the neon sign flickering like my own flickering resolve. The city pulsed around me, a mix of holiday cheer and gritty reality carolers on one corner, a guy shouting into his phone on another. I needed to think, to plan, but my mind kept replaying Ethan's words. It's just easier if you're not here. Easier. The word was a blade, slicing through the love I'd poured into him since he was a boy building forts in our backyard. I thought of Clara, her gentle hands braiding his hair for school pictures, her laughter when he'd sneak extra cookies from her jar. She'd have been heartbroken to see this, her boy turning into a stranger who'd sell his father out for his wife's approval. My phone buzzed again, Vanessa's name flashing like a warning sign. I ignored it, but the next call came from Sophia, her venomous friend who'd always had a knack for twisting the knife. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Well, well, Grandpa Willie," she sneered, her voice dripping with the kind of street-smart sarcasm that could cut glass. "Crying in your truck like a washed-up nobody? Boo-hoo, old man. You really thought you'd fit in with the Prescott's caviar crowd? Stick to your tacos and tool belts, loser." The words hit like a sucker punch, crude and deliberate, meant to humiliate. I could hear Vanessa giggling in the background, egging her on. "You're a walking ATM, Harper, and now you're broken alone. Maybe next time don't try to play in our league, you pathetic has-been." I hung up, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. Sophia's cruelty wasn't new. She'd been Vanessa's attack dog for years, spreading rumors about my tacky flannel shirts or unrefined manners at their cocktail parties. But this was different. This was a public execution, a calculated move to make me feel small, irrelevant, a relic they could mock while spending my money. The betrayal wasn't just Ethan's silence or Vanessa's snobbery. It was the whole damn machine of their social circle, with Sophia as the mouthpiece, tearing me apart for sport. I sat there, staring at the 7-Eleven's flickering sign, my breath fogging the windshield. Part of me wanted to drive back, pound on their door, and scream until they understood the weight of what they'd done. I'd given them $5 million, $2 million for their mortgage, $1 million for their down payment, another $1 million for their endless renovations, and $500,000 for Vanessa's luxury cars and designer clothes. I'd eaten ramen noodles for dinner to cover their utility bills, skipped doctor visits to pay for their kids' private school tuition. And now, I was the outsider, the low-class embarrassment they couldn't stomach at their Christmas table. But then my phone lit up with a text from Tom Rivera, my old friend, and the one person who'd never wavered in his loyalty. "Heard what happened, Will. I'm at the bar. Get over here. You don't need to be alone." Tom, a retired contractor with a heart as big as the Rockies, had been my rock since Clara's death. He'd warned me about Vanessa's greed, about Ethan's weakness, but I'd been too blind to listen. Now, his words were a lifeline pulling me from the edge. I started the truck and headed to O'Malley's, a dive bar on Larimer Street, where we'd spent countless nights nursing beers and trading stories. Inside, the bar was warm, filled with the hum of working-class Denver construction workers, teachers, folks who knew the value of $1 and the cost of betrayal. Tom sat at our usual corner booth, his weathered face creasing with concern as I slid in across from him. "You look like hell, Will," he said, pushing a beer my way. "What'd those vipers do now?" I told him everything. Ethan's dismissal, Vanessa's parents, Sophia's venomous call. Tom's jaw tightened, his calloused hands clenching around his bottle. "They're leeches, every damn one of them. And Ethan, he's worse, letting his wife and her cronies treat you like garbage after all you've done." The words stung, but they were true. I stared into my beer, the amber liquid reflecting the bar's dim lights. "I keep thinking about Clara," I admitted, my voice cracking. "She'd be ashamed of me, Tom. Letting them walk all over me, giving them everything while they laughed behind my back. The shame was a weight, heavier than any loan I'd taken out. I'd let Clara's memory down, let myself become a doormat for people who saw me as nothing but a cash machine. The fight inside me wavered. Part of me wanted to crawl back, beg for a seat at their table, just to feel like family again. But another part, the part forged in 40 years of building something from nothing, screamed for justice. Then the door swung open, and in walked Jake Malone, a slimy real estate agent who'd brokered Ethan's mansion deal and always hovered around Vanessa's circle like a vulture. Jake was the middleman, the guy who'd sweet-talked me into signing off on their outrageous mortgage terms, all while knowing they'd never pay a dime themselves. "Well, look who's here," he drawled, sauntering over with a smirk. "Old man Harper, drowning his sorrows because his kid finally ditched him? Tough break, buddy. Maybe if you'd stayed in your lane, you wouldn't be crying into your cheap beer." His words were a street fighter's jab, crude and meant to draw blood. Tom stood, his 6'2" frame towering over Jake, but I grabbed his arm. "Not worth it," I muttered, though my blood was boiling. Jake leaned in, his breath reeking of whiskey. "You're a joke, Harper. You thought throwing money at Ethan would buy you a family? You're just a washed-up contractor with a fat wallet and no spine. Vanessa's parents are laughing their asses off at you." The bar went quiet, heads turning as Jake's voice carried. Humiliation burned through me, but it was the mention of Vanessa's parents that snapped something loose. I stood, meeting his gaze. "You got a big mouth, Jake, but you're gonna choke on it when I'm done." "Oh, clue." He laughed, loud and ugly, but I saw the flicker of unease in his eyes. I turned to Tom. "I'm not letting them win," I said, my voice low but steady. "They think they can humiliate me, erase me? I'm taking it all back." Tom nodded, his eyes glinting with approval. "That's the will, I know. What's the plan?" I didn't have one yet, but as I left the bar, the Denver skyline stretching before me, I knew one thing. I'd spent $5 million building their castle, and now I was going to burn it to the ground. My phone buzzed again, Vanessa, probably with more insults or demands. I turned it off, the silence a promise. They'd pushed me too far, and now they'd face a man they'd never seen coming. The Denver skyline loomed like a jagged crown as I drove away from O'Malley's, the taste of Jake's venomous words still bitter on my tongue. My truck rumbled through the city's veins, past dive bars and glittering high-rises, while the betrayal gnawed deeper, a wound that bled memories of Clara's pride in our family, now trampled by Ethan's cowardice and Vanessa's greed. $5 million, 5 million reasons I'd thought I was building a legacy, only to be cast out like trash from their Cherry Creek mansion. But the fire in my chest wasn't just pain anymore. It was resolve, a molten determination to reclaim my dignity. They'd mocked me, humiliated me, but I wasn't the broken old man they thought. I was William Harper, and I was done being their fool. I pulled into my modest Aurora bungalow, the cracked driveway, a stark reminder of the sacrifices I'd made. The porch light flickered, a repair I'd put off because every dollar went to Ethan's mortgage, Vanessa's shopping sprees, or their kids' private school fees. Inside, the house was quiet. Too quiet, the walls echoing with Clara's absence and the ghosts of better days. I dropped my keys on the kitchen counter, the same counter where I'd balanced my checkbook month after month, watching my savings vanish into their bottomless pit. My phone buzzed again, Vanessa, probably with another demand or insult. I ignored it, my eyes falling on a framed photo of Clara and me at Ethan's high school graduation, his grin wide and unguarded. That boy was gone, replaced by a man who let his wife's family spit in my face. The silence was shattered by a knock at the door, sharp and insistent. I opened it to find Maria Sanchez, my longtime accountant and one of the few people I trusted implicitly. Her dark eyes flashed with concern, her arms crossed against the December chill. "Tom called me," she said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "Said you're in a war zone, Will. What the hell's going on?" Maria was a rock, a single mom who'd fought her way through a man's world to build a reputation as Denver's sharpest number cruncher. She'd been with me since Harper and Sons was just a dream, always warning me about Ethan's spending. "You're too generous," she'd said last year, shaking her head over their latest renovation bill. "They're bleeding you dry." I poured her a coffee, my hands shaking as I recounted the Christmas exclusion, Sophia's vicious call, and Jake's barroom taunts. Maria's face darkened with each word, her fingers tapping the counter like a countdown to explosion. "Those ungrateful leeches," she spat, her voice low but fierce. "You gave them everything, Will, and they treat you like some street bum? We need to hit back hard." Her loyalty was a balm, but the pain of Ethan's betrayal still throbbed, a wound that pulsed with every memory of his childhood laughter, now drowned out by Vanessa's laughter in the background of Sophia's call. Before I could respond, my phone lit up with a new call. Richard Prescott, Vanessa's father, his East Coast drawl oozing through the speaker like oil. "Listen up, you old grease monkey," he barked, his voice dripping with the kind of street-tough bravado he'd probably practiced in front of a mirror. "You think you can just sulk in your shitty little house and make us look bad? You're a nobody, Harper, a washed-up contractor who lucked into some cash. Stay the hell away from my daughter's Christmas, or I'll make sure every rich prick in Denver knows you're a pathetic loser who can't even afford a decent suit." The line went dead, his words, a fresh cut on an already bleeding heart. I stood frozen, the phone heavy in my hand. Richard's cruelty wasn't just personal, it was a declaration of war, a reminder that I was nothing to them but a wallet to be drained and discarded. The pain was suffocating, a mix of grief for the son I'd lost and shame for letting myself be used. I wanted to call Ethan, to beg him to see me as his father again, but the image of Clara's disappointed eyes stopped me. She'd loved me for my strength, not my weakness. I couldn't let her down again. Maria grabbed my arm, her grip grounding me. "Will, don't let that bastard get in your head. You're not the fool here they are." She pulled out her laptop, her fingers flying across the keys. "I've been tracking their accounts for you, like you asked last year. You want a real shock? They've been funneling your money into a secret offshore account. $1 million, siphoned off over 3 years, while you were eating canned beans to cover their bills." My heart stopped. $1 million. Stolen not just from my bank account, but from the trust I'd placed in my own son. The betrayal was a skyscraper, collapsing. Every floor a memory of sacrifice crushed under their greed. But the shocks kept coming. Maria scrolled through a banking app, revealing a second betrayal. "Vanessa's been taking side payments from Jake Malone," she said, her voice tight with disgust. "He's been skimming 10% off every real estate deal you funded for them, $200,000 in kickbacks. And Ethan signed off on it." My vision blurred, the room spinning as the depth of their deception sank in. Ethan, my boy, had known about the kickbacks, had let Jake and Vanessa rob me blind while I was banned from their Christmas table. The pain was a tidal wave, drowning the last shred of hope I'd clung to. Then came the third blow. My phone pinged with an email from Lisa Carter, a former employee turned real estate rival who'd always had it out for me. Attached was a screenshot of a group chat Vanessa, Sophia, and Lisa plotting to smear my name at the Denver Business Association's annual gala. "Let's make sure everyone knows Harper's just a washed-up nobody," Lisa had written, followed by Vanessa's reply. "Don't worry, my parents will bury him. He's too old and stupid to fight back." Sophia's contribution was a knife twist. "Lol, let's leak his financials. Show the world he's broke and desperate." The gala was in 3 days, a public stage where they planned to humiliate me in front of Denver's elite. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in as the triple betrayal, Ethan's complicity, Vanessa's theft, and their planned public attack crushed me. I wanted to scream, to drive to their mansion and demand answers, but the weight of their deceit pinned me to the chair. Maria's voice cut through the fog. "Will, you're stronger than this. They think they've won, but you've got the upper hand. You own their mortgage. You control their world." Her words were a spark, igniting the fire I'd felt in the bar. She was right. I wasn't just a victim. I was William Harper, a man who'd built an empire from nothing, and I wasn't going down without a fight. I opened my desk drawer, pulling out the manila folder I'd kept since the day Ethan bought that house. Bank statements, loan agreements, proof of every dollar I'd poured into their lives. $5 million, documented down to the penny. I looked at Maria, my voice steady for the first time that night. "I'm canceling their mortgage payments. And that's just the start." She grinned, a warrior's smile. "That's my will. Let's burn their castle down." As I reached for my phone to call Daniel, my lawyer, I felt the ghost of Clara beside me, her strength fueling mine. They'd declared war, but I was about to show them what happens when you betray a man who's got nothing left to lose. The Aurora night was a cold slap against my face as I sat at my kitchen table. The manila folder of financial betrayal spread out like a war map. $5 million, 5 million reasons I'd believed I was securing Ethan's future, only to discover he'd been complicit in Vanessa's schemes, siphoning off $1 million to an offshore account and letting Jake Malone pocket $200,000 in kickbacks. The Denver Business Association gala loomed in 3 days, where Vanessa, Sophia, and Lisa planned to paint me as a broke, senile fool. The pain of their betrayal was a jagged blade, twisting with every memory of Clara's faith in our family. But the fire in my gut was stronger now, a blaze of righteous anger that demanded action. I wasn't just fighting for my dignity. I was fighting for the man I'd forgotten how to be. Maria sat across from me, her coffee gone cold, her eyes burning with the same fury I felt. "They're playing dirty, Will," she said, her voice a low growl. "But you've got the receipts literally. Let's hit them where it hurts." Her loyalty was a lifeline, anchoring me against the storm of grief and rage. I wanted to believe Ethan could still be saved, that the boy who'd once looked at me like I hung the moon was still in there. But the evidence, bank statements, emails, that damning group chat screamed otherwise. My heart ached, torn between love for my son and the need to make them pay for their cruelty. My phone buzzed, shattering the silence. It was a text from Sophia, her words dripping with street-smart venom. "Yo, old man, you still crying over your sad little life? Bet you're too broke to even show up at the gala. Stay in your dump and leave the big leagues to us. The message was a Molotov cocktail, igniting my resolve. Sophia wasn't just Vanessa's attack dog. She was a predator, thriving on my humiliation. I could picture her smirking in her designer heels, sipping overpriced wine while plotting with Vanessa to ruin me. But her taunts were a mistake. They'd woken a giant. Before I could respond, the doorbell rang, a sharp, aggressive chime that echoed like a challenge. I opened the door to find Vanessa herself, flanked by Jake Malone and a new face, Carla Reyes, a slick PR consultant known for spinning scandals into gold. Vanessa's eyes glinted with malice, her red lipstick a slash of defiance. "Well, look at you, Willie," she sneered, her voice pure Denver street swagger. "Hiding in your raggedy-ass shack, whining like a kicked dog. You think you can mess with us? You're a fossil, a nobody who got lucky once. Crawl back to your hole before we bury you at that gala." Jake chuckled, his sleazy grin making my skin crawl, while Carla adjusted her glasses, sizing me up like I was a problem to be managed. The words hit like a freight train, each syllable a reminder of the years I'd let them walk over me. My chest tightened, the pain of Ethan's betrayal mingling with the humiliation of Vanessa's public attack. I wanted to scream, to tell her about the $5 million I'd poured into her life, the nights I'd gone hungry to keep her lights on. But the image of Clara's gentle smile stopped me. She'd taught me to fight smarter, not louder. "Get off my porch," I said, my voice low and steady, a steel I hadn't felt in years. Vanessa laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Oh, we're just getting started, old man. My parents are going to make sure every big shot in Denver knows you're a washed-up joke. Enjoy your last days of relevance." They turned to leave, but Carla lingered, her voice smooth as silk. "Mr. Harper, I can make this go away. Drop whatever you're planning, and we'll keep your name out of the mud. Think about it, your reputation's all you've got left." Her offer was a poisoned apple, a middleman's attempt to broker peace while protecting Vanessa's lies. I slammed the door, my heart pounding with a mix of rage and despair. Carla's words echoed my reputation, built over 40 years, was under siege. The gala wasn't just a party, it was a battlefield where they'd try to destroy me. I turned to Maria, who'd overheard everything. "They're desperate," she said, her eyes narrowing. "That means they're scared. You've got the upper hand, Will." But the weight of their attack was crushing. I sank into a chair, my mind replaying every insult, Vanessa's sneer, Sophia's text, Richard's threats. The deepest cut was Ethan's silence, his absence in this war they'd waged. I wanted to call him, to demand why he'd let his wife and her cronies gut me like this. But the truth was a cold slap. He'd chosen them over me, just as he'd chosen their refined Christmas over his own father. Then came another shock. Maria's phone pinged with an alert from her banking app. "Will, you need to see this?" she said, her voice tight. She turned her laptop toward me, revealing a new transaction, $50,000 withdrawn from Ethan's joint account with Vanessa, funneled into a shell company linked to Jake Malone. "They're liquidating assets," Maria said, "probably to cover their tracks before the gala. And look, Ethan authorized it yesterday." My stomach dropped. Ethan wasn't just complicit, he was actively helping them hide my money. The betrayal was a skyscraper, collapsing, each floor a memory of his childhood trust, shattered by his greed. But the hits kept coming. My phone buzzed with a forwarded email from Tom, who'd been digging into Jake's dealings. It was a contract, signed by Vanessa and Lisa Carter, hiring a private investigator to dig up dirt on my past anything to paint me as unstable at the gala. The investigator's report was attached, filled with lies. Claims I'd mismanaged Harper and Sons, fabricated debts, even a forged medical record suggesting early dementia. The audacity was staggering. A third betrayal in as many minutes. They weren't just stealing my money. They were trying to erase my legacy, to make Denver believe I was a broken man who'd lost his mind. The room spun, my breath shallow, as the weight of their conspiracy pressed down. I wanted to give up, to let the pain swallow me whole. Clara's voice echoed in my mind. "You're stronger than they know, Will." But was I? The gala was in 3 days, and they had the city's elite in their pocket. I could see Vanessa's smirk, hear Sophia's laughter, feel Ethan's absence like a missing limb. The temptation to crawl back, to beg for their forgiveness, was a whisper in my ear. But Maria's hand on my shoulder pulled me back. "They're counting on you to fold," she said, her voice fierce with conviction. "Show them who you really are." I opened the manila folder again, my fingers tracing the bank statements, $5 million of proof that I'd been their fool. But no more. I picked up my phone and dialed Daniel Brooks, my lawyer, his calm voice, a contrast to the chaos in my chest. Daniel, I want to cancel their mortgage payments. All $60,000 a month, effective immediately. And I want you to dig into that offshore account and Jake's kickbacks. We're going nuclear. Maria's grin was a warrior's, her loyalty a shield against the storm. As I hung up, I felt Clara's strength surge through me. They'd tried to break me, but they'd only forged a weapon. The gala was coming, and I was ready to turn their world to ash. The Denver morning broke gray and heavy, the kind of winter gloom that mirrors a man's soul when it's been torn apart. My kitchen table was a battlefield, littered with bank statements and loan agreements, $5 million of my life's work, bled out to prop up Ethan and Vanessa's empire of lies. The gala was 2 days away, where they planned to bury my reputation with forged documents and vicious rumors. Maria's revelation of their offshore account, $1 million stolen, and Jake's $200,000 kickbacks had cracked my heart open. But the forged dementia report from Lisa Carter's hired investigator was the final nail. Ethan's signature on those transactions haunted me, a betrayal that cut deeper than any of Vanessa's insults. Yet, as I sipped my coffee, Clara's voice whispered through the fog of pain. Fight, Will. You're not done yet. I wasn't. I'd canceled their $60,000 a month mortgage payments last night, and now I was ready to escalate. Maria had stayed late, her fierce loyalty, a beacon in the storm. They're panicking, she'd said, her eyes glinting with strategy. That means they're sloppy. We've got them, Will. But the weight of Ethan's complicity pressed against my ribs, a grief so raw it threatened to drown the fire in me. I wanted to believe he'd been coerced, that Vanessa and her vipers had twisted him against me. But the truth was colder. My son had chosen their glittering world over the father who'd given him everything. The Gia loomed like a guillotine, and I was torn between the urge to confront Ethan and the need to destroy the machine that had turned him against me. My phone buzzed, snapping me back to the present. It was a voicemail from Lisa Carter, her voice a mix of corporate polish and street-edge venom. Yo, Harper, you sad old bastard, she hissed, her words sharp as a switchblade. Think you can play hardball with us? You're a dried-up nobody, scraping by in your shitty little hovel. We're gonna drag your name through the mud at that gala, make sure every suit in Denver knows you're a broke-ass lunatic. Stay down, or we'll make sure you're eating cat food by New Year's O. The message ended with her cackling laugh, echoed by Vanessa's in the background, a sound that twisted the knife in my chest. The humiliation burned, but it was the betrayal beneath it that broke me. Lisa wasn't just a rival. She'd been my employee once, someone I'd mentored, given raises, even paid for her kids' braces. Now, she was Vanessa's weapon, forging lies to erase my legacy. I wanted to call Ethan, to scream, "How could you let this happen?" But the memory of Clara's strength held me back. She'd faced cancer with a fire I'd forgotten I had. I couldn't let her down by crumbling now. Then came the first shock of the day. My doorbell rang, and I opened it to find Tom Rivera, his face grim, holding a stack of papers. "Will, you need to see this?" he said, stepping inside. He was my rock, a man who'd stood by me through Clara's illness and every business battle since. He spread the papers on the table, a leaked email chain between Vanessa and a local reporter, Greg Walsh, a slimy journalist known for sensational hit pieces. The emails detailed a plan to plant a story in the Denver Post, claiming I'd defrauded clients at Harper & Sons, complete with fake invoices totaling $300,000. "They're saying you cooked the books," Tom growled. "Greg's ready to run it tomorrow, right before the gala. And Ethan's copied on every email." My heart stopped. Ethan, my boy, wasn't just complicit in their theft. He was helping them frame me as a criminal. The betrayal was a tsunami, washing away the last flicker of hope I'd held for him. I sank into a chair, my hands trembling. "He knew," I whispered, the words tasting like ash. "He's letting them destroy me." Tom's hand gripped my shoulder, his voice steady. "You're not alone, Will. We'll fight this, but you've got to move fast." His loyalty was a lifeline, but the pain was relentless. A war between the father who wanted to save his son and the man who couldn't forgive this treachery. Before I could process it, my phone pinged with a new email. It was from Carla Reyes, the PR shark who'd tried to buy my silence last night. Attached was a contract, a hush agreement, offering me $50,000 to drop my plans and stay away from the gala. "Sign this, Mr. Harper," her message read, "and we'll call off the Post story. Refuse, and your life's over." The audacity was staggering, a second betrayal in minutes. Carla, the neutral middleman, was now a player in their game, dangling my dignity like a carrot while threatening to ruin me. I wanted to drive to her office, shove the contract in her face, and scream. But Clara's voice echoed again. Smarter, not louder. Then came the third blow. Tom's phone buzzed with a text from his cousin, a clerk at the county recorder's office. Will, they're trying to transfer your name off the deed to their house, he said, his voice tight with rage. Vanessa filed paperwork yesterday, claiming you gifted them the $5 million property outright. Ethan signed it. My vision blurred, the room tilting. They weren't just stealing my money. They were erasing my legal claim to the house I'd paid for, the house I'd sacrificed everything to give them. The betrayal was a skyscraper, crumbling, each floor a memory of Ethan's childhood, his first bike, his graduation, his promises to make me proud reduced to rubble. The pain was a physical weight, crushing my chest. I wanted to give up, to let them win, to crawl into bed and forget the world. Ethan's face as a boy, beaming at me from the sidelines of his Little League games, clashed with the man who'd signed away my legacy. I was torn, my heart screaming to save him, my mind demanding justice. Maria's voice cut through the chaos. They're trying to bury you, Will, but you're not dead yet. You've got the evidence. The power. Use it. Her words were a spark, reigniting the fire I'd felt last night. I opened my laptop, pulling up the banking app Maria had shown me. The offshore account, the kickbacks, the forged invoices, all documented, ready to be weaponized. I called Daniel Brooks, my lawyer, my voice cold as the Denver winter. Daniel, file a lien on their house, freeze their accounts, and get me a meeting with the Denver Post editor before Greg Walsh runs that story. We're exposing them all. Maria and Tom exchanged a look, their loyalty a shield against the storm. As I hung up, I felt Clara's presence, her strength merging with mine. The gala was tomorrow, and I was no longer the victim. I was William Harper, a man forged in fire, and I was about to bring their world crashing down. The Denver dawn was a bruise on the horizon, its muted light filtering through my kitchen window as I sat hunched over my laptop, the weight of betrayal heavier than the snow piling up outside. The gala was tonight, a glittering battlefield where Vanessa, Sophia, and Lisa planned to shred my reputation with lies, fake invoices claiming I'd defrauded clients of $300,000, a forged dementia report, and a scheme to strip my name from the deed of their $5 million mansion. Ethan's complicity, signing off on $1 million siphoned to an offshore account and $200,000 in kickbacks to Jake, was a wound that bled anew with every breath. Clara's memory, her unwavering belief in family, clashed with the reality of my son's betrayal, tearing my heart between love and vengeance. But the fire in my gut burned hotter now, fueled by Maria's loyalty and Tom's steadfast support. I'd canceled their $60,000 a month mortgage payments and ordered Daniel to freeze their accounts. Tonight, I'd strike back. Are you enjoying the story so far? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Just drop a quick comment below to share how you feel. It only takes a few seconds, but your words give me the motivation and inspiration to make every chapter more thrilling and engaging. Go ahead, let me know what's on your mind. And now, let's dive back into the story. Maria had crashed on my couch, her laptop still open to the banking app that exposed Vanessa's theft. They're cornered, Will, she'd said before drifting off, her voice fierce with conviction. Hit them now, or they'll bury you. Her words echoed as I sipped my coffee, the bitter taste mirroring the bitterness in my soul. I wanted to call Ethan to demand one last chance to save him from the vipers he'd chosen. But the image of his signature on those fraudulent documents stopped me cold. He wasn't just a bystander, he was an accomplice, trading my love for Vanessa's approval. The pain was a vice, squeezing my chest until I could barely breathe. My phone buzzed, a new text from Jake Malone, his words dripping with street-smart venom. Yo, Harper, you dumb old fuck, it read. Think you can screw us over? We're gonna make you a laughingstock at that gala, a broke-ass grandpa who can't even tie his own shoes. Stay in your shitty lane, or we'll make sure you're begging on Colfax by Christmas. The message was a gut punch, crude and calculated to humiliate. Jake's betrayal stung deeper than I expected. He'd been my real estate broker, someone I'd trusted with my life savings, now profiting off my pain. I could picture him grinning in his cheap suit, sipping whiskey at some upscale bar with Vanessa, plotting my downfall. The urge to drive to his office and smash his smug face was overwhelming, but Clara's voice whispered, "Smarter, Will, always smarter." Before I could respond, my doorbell rang, a harsh, insistent buzz that set my nerves on edge. I opened it to find Richard Prescott, Vanessa's father, standing on my porch with a new player, Marcus Tate, a crooked lawyer known for defending Denver's shadiest developers. Richard's eyes gleamed with malice, his East Coast swagger replaced by a street-tough snarl. "Listen up, you washed-up piece of trash," he growled, stepping into my space. "You think you can fuck with my family? You're a nobody, Harper, a dirt-stained contractor who got lucky. We're gonna burn your sad little life to the ground tonight. Make sure every rich bastard in Denver knows you're a pathetic has-been." Marcus smirked, adjusting his tie. "Sign Carla's hush agreement, old man, or we'll sue you into the poorhouse. Your call." The words were a flamethrower, searing my pride. Richard wasn't just insulting me, he was erasing 40 years of hard work, reducing me to a caricature while his daughter stole my money. The pain of Ethan's absence hit harder than ever. My son, who'd once promised to make me proud, was letting this man destroy me. I wanted to grab Richard by his designer lapels, scream that I'd given his daughter $5 million, but the memory of Clara's strength held me back. "Get out," I said, my voice low and dangerous. Richard laughed, a harsh bark. "Oh, we're just warming up, you old fuck. See you at the gala, hope you brought a diaper." They turned to leave, Marcus tossing a business card on my porch like a taunt. The door slammed shut, but the storm inside me raged. I sank onto the couch, my hands trembling as I fought the urge to give in, to sign Carla's contract and crawl away. Ethan's betrayal was a knife in my heart, twisting with every new revelation. I pictured him as a boy, running to me after a bad day at school, his trust absolute. Now, he was signing away my legacy, letting his wife and her cronies paint me as a lunatic. The grief was a tidal wave, threatening to drown me, but Maria's voice cut through. "Will, you awake?" she called, sitting up, her eyes sharp despite the exhaustion. "Don't let them break you. You're stronger than this." Then came the first shock of the morning. Tom burst through the door, his face pale, clutching his phone. "Will, you gotta hear this," he said, playing a voicemail from his contact at the Denver Post. It was Greg Walsh, the reporter, gloating to a colleague. "Harper's done for." Vanessa's got photos, staged ones showing him drunk at a bar, looking like a crazy old coot. Ethan okayed them. They're running with the fraud story tomorrow. My stomach lurched. Photos, staged to make me look unhinged, approved by my own son. The betrayal was a skyscraper collapsing, each floor a memory of Ethan's love crushed under his greed. I wanted to scream, to drive to his mansion, and demand answers, but the pain pinned me to the couch. The second shock hit moments later. Maria's phone pinged with an alert from her banking app. "They're at it again," she said, her voice tight. She showed me a new transaction, $75,000, transferred from Ethan's account to a Cayman Islands bank, labeled as a consulting fee to Marcus Tate. "Ethan's paying off their lawyer," Maria said, her eyes blazing. "He's covering their tracks while they set you up." The audacity was staggering, a fresh betrayal that made my vision blur. My son wasn't just complicit. He was bankrolling their war against me, using my money to bury me. Then came the third blow. My phone buzzed with an email from Daniel, my lawyer, forwarded from a whistleblower at the county recorder's office. Vanessa had filed a second set of documents, claiming I'd verbally agreed to transfer my entire construction company, Harper and Sons, to her as a gift for their 10th anniversary. Ethan's signature was on it, alongside a forged letter in my name. The lie was breathtaking. They weren't just after my money or my house. They wanted my legacy, the business I'd built over 40 years. The pain was a physical force, crushing my chest as I pictured Ethan signing away everything I'd worked for. I wanted to collapse, to let the grief consume me. Clara's face flashed before me, her eyes pleading for me to fight. Maria grabbed my hand, her grip fierce. "They're scared, Will. That's why they're pulling this shit. You've got the evidence, use it." Tom nodded, his loyalty a steel rod in my spine. I opened my laptop, pulling up the folder of bank statements, emails, and forged documents. "Daniel," I said into the phone, my voice cold as ice. "File a lawsuit against them all, Vanessa, Ethan, Jake, Marcus, Lisa, and get me into that gala. I'm bringing the truth." As I hung up, Clara's strength surged through me. They'd tried to erase me, but tonight, I'd show them who William Harper really was. The Denver evening was a glittering trap, the city's skyline ablaze with lights as I drove toward the Four Seasons, where the Business Association Gala promised to be my execution. Vanessa, Sophia, and Lisa had armed themselves with lies, fake invoices claiming I'd defrauded clients of $300,000, staged photos to paint me as a drunk, and a forged letter transferring my company, Harper and Sons, to Vanessa. Ethan's signatures on every damning document were a knife in my heart. twisting with each memory of his childhood trust. The canceled $60,000 a month mortgage payments and frozen accounts were my first strikes, but tonight I'd bring the war to their doorstep. Maria and Tom's loyalty fueled my resolve. Clara's memory, a beacon in the storm of betrayal. I was no longer the broken father. I was William Harper, and I was ready to burn their world down. The Four Seasons ballroom shimmered with wealth crystal chandeliers, black tie elites, and the clink of champagne glasses, masking the venom beneath. I adjusted my navy suit, the one I'd worn to Clara's funeral, now a symbol of my rebirth. My briefcase held the evidence: bank statements proving $5 million in payments, emails exposing $1 million in offshore theft, and documents of Jake's $200,000 kickbacks. Daniel, my lawyer, had secured my entry in a meeting with the Denver Post's editor, who'd promised to hold Greg Walsh's hit piece until I could present my case. But the pain of Ethan's betrayal gnawed at me, a raw wound that bled with every step. I wanted to find him, to shake him and beg for the truth. But Clara's voice whispered, "Stay sharp, Will. This is your moment." As I entered, Sophia spotted me, her designer gown glittering as she sauntered over, her smirk pure street venom. "Well, fuck me, it's Grandpa Harper," she sneered, loud enough for nearby heads to turn. "Crawled out of your shitty hovel to play with the big dogs? You're a sad old fuck, thinking you can crash our party. Go back to your cheap whiskey and cry yourself to sleep." Her words were a flamethrower, burning through my pride. The crowd's whispers stung, but the deeper cut was Ethan's absence, my son, nowhere to be seen, letting his wife's attack dog tear me apart. I wanted to lash out, to tell her about the millions I'd given, but I held my ground, my voice low. "Enjoy your moment, Sophia. It's the last one you'll get." Before she could respond, Vanessa appeared, flanked by Richard and Marcus Tate, the crooked lawyer. Her red dress was a slash of defiance, her eyes blazing with contempt. "You got some balls, old man," she spat, her voice dripping with Colfax street swagger. "Showing up here like you belong? You're a broke-ass nobody, Harper. A washed-up contractor who can't even afford a decent tie. We're gonna bury you tonight. Make sure every rich prick in this room knows you're a crazy old fuck who lost it all." Richard chuckled, his Rolex glinting. "Should have signed Carla's deal, you dumb bastard. Now you're done." Marcus leaned in, his tone slick. "Last chance, Harper. Walk away, or we'll sue you into oblivion." The insults were a barrage, each one a reminder of the $5 million I'd poured into their lives, now repaid with betrayal. My heart screamed for Ethan, for the boy who'd once clung to me during thunderstorms. But he was gone, replaced by a man who'd signed away my legacy. The temptation to flee, to spare myself the public humiliation, was a siren's call. But Maria's words echoed. "They're scared, Will. You've got the power." I straightened, meeting Vanessa's gaze. "You're about to learn what happens when you steal from a man who built an empire." Then came the first shock. The ballroom's projector flickered to life, displaying a photo, not the staged ones Greg Walsh had planned, but a bank statement projected for all to see. $60,000 a month, wired to Vanessa and Ethan's account, labeled Harper Support. Gasps rippled through the crowd. I turned to see Tom at the tech booth, his grin fierce. "Found a friend who runs the AV," he whispered, slipping me a USB drive. "Your evidence, live and in color." The betrayal's exposure was a lightning bolt, but Ethan's absence burned hotter, my son. Nowhere to defend me or himself. The second shock hit as Vanessa lunged toward the stage, screaming, "Turn it off, you fucking idiots." But the screen shifted to the offshore account statement, $1 million stolen, with Ethan's signature clear as day. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, elites clutching their champagne glasses, eyes wide with shock. Richard's face went pale, his bravado crumbling. "This is a setup," he bellowed, but the evidence was undeniable. My heart twisted. Ethan's signature was a public confession, yet I longed to shield him, to believe he'd been coerced. But the truth was, a cold blade. He'd chosen this. Then came the third shock. Carla Reyes, the PR shark, pushed through the crowd, her face a mask of panic. "Mr. Harper, stop this now," she hissed, her neutral facade gone. "We had a deal." I stared, realization dawning. Carla had been playing both sides, promising me peace while feeding Vanessa my plans. Her betrayal was a fresh wound, a supposed ally revealed as another viper. "No deal, Carla," I said, my voice carrying over the chaos. "You picked the wrong side." I handed the USB to Tom, who queued up the forged dementia report and fake invoices, $300,000 in lies, all tied to Lisa Carter and Ethan. The ballroom erupted, voices rising in accusation as Denver's elite turned on Vanessa and Richard. Sophia tried to slip away, but eyes followed her, her venomous confidence shattered. I stood tall, the pain of Ethan's betrayal, a dull ache beneath my resolve. Clara's strength surged through me, her memory a shield against the chaos. I addressed the crowd, my voice steady. $5 million. That's what I gave my son and his wife. They repaid me with theft, lies, and a plan to destroy my name. Tonight, you see the truth. Vanessa's scream cut through the air, but it was drowned by the crowd's outrage. The gala was no longer their stage. It was mine, and I was just getting started. The Boise morning broke with a deceptive calm, the December sun casting pale light through my living room windows, glinting off Margaret's photo on the mantel. My home, once a refuge of love, was now a command center, its walls witness to a war I never wanted but couldn't avoid. The forged lien for $1 million, the fabricated money laundering accusations, and Ethan's signature on a petition to strip me of my freedom had turned my grief into a relentless drive for justice. Each betrayal, Nate's threats, Evelyn's venom, Lila's fake photos piled onto the wound of Ethan's silence, a son who'd traded my love for his wife's approval. But as I stood in my kitchen, sipping coffee that tasted like resolve, I felt Margaret's spirit urging me forward. They'd tried to paint me as a villain. Today, at a press conference, I'd show Boise the truth. This wasn't just a fight for my name, it was a fight for my soul. My phone buzzed with a new text from Victoria, her words raw with street-bred malice. "You're a deadbeat fossil, Whitaker, you slimy old rat," it read. "Think you can play hero at some press conference? We'll make sure this town laughs you into the grave, you broke-ass loser." The audacity calling me broke after siphoning millions from my accounts lit a fire in my gut. I wanted to fire back, to tell her she was nothing but a gold-digging parasite. But I didn't. Instead, I sent the text to Diane, my lawyer, who was finalizing the press conference details. "They're scared," she said over the phone, her voice steady as steel. "This is their last-ditch effort to intimidate you. We've got the evidence, bank records, forgeries, their own words. You're ready." Before I could prepare, a furious pounding shook my front door, the kind that promised violence. I opened it to find Charles Montgomery, his face red with rage, his tailored suit unable to mask the thug beneath. "You're a disgusting piece of trash, Whitaker," he snarled, his voice pure Boise barroom venom. "Think you can drag my family through your little media circus? We'll have you in a padded cell, you washed-up nobody, and we'll take your whole damn empire." His threat was a sledgehammer, each word pounding the fragile hope I'd clung to for Ethan. My heart twisted, torn between the father who wanted to believe his son could still be saved and the man who refused to let this elitist bully break him. "Get off my property, Charles," I said, my voice a low growl, "or I'll have you hauled away in cuffs before your next martini." His eyes flashed with shock, but he leaned in, his breath sour with whiskey. "You're a joke, Whitaker. Ethan's done with you, and we'll make sure Boise buries you." Ethan's name was a dagger, but I stood firm, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. Inside, my chest heaved, the pain of my son's betrayal, a raw, bleeding wound. I wanted to scream, to beg Ethan to remember the father who'd built his world, but Margaret's photo held my gaze, her eyes a silent command. "Fight, Robert. You're enough." Then, another bombshell, an email from Karen, my accountant, marked critical. "Robert, I found something worse," it read. "Victoria and Ethan used your company's name to secure a fake construction contract worth $2 million, funneled through Lila's boutique as a shell company. The funds went to an offshore account. $2 million. My company, my legacy, twisted into their criminal scheme. My vision blurred with rage, the betrayal so vast it threatened to swallow me whole. I called Diane, my voice trembling but resolute. "Add it to the lawsuit," I said. "They're not just thieves, they're trying to frame me as one." As I prepared for the press conference, Sarah's gentle knock came at the back door. She carried a tray of blueberry muffins, her eyes heavy with empathy. "I saw Charles's car," she said, setting the tray down. "What's happened now?" I told her about the fake contract, Ethan's role, the relentless attacks. "He's not my son anymore," I said, my voice breaking. "He's killing everything I am." Sarah's hand found mine, her warmth a lifeline. "You're still you, Robert," she said, her voice trembling with shared pain. "They can't take that unless you let them." Her loyalty, alongside Tom's, Jake's, and Frank's, was a shield against the darkness, but Ethan's betrayal threatened to crush me. Then, another shock, a call from Tom Reynolds, his voice urgent. "Robert, I was at the country club, and Lila was there with Cassandra Lane, the Gazette reporter. They're planning to crash your press conference with fake evidence-altered bank statements claiming you bribed city officials. Bribery? The accusation was a death sentence, threatening my freedom and my legacy. Charles and Lila weren't just after my money, they wanted me in chains. I thanked Tom, promising a case of his favorite beer, and called Diane. "We need to be ready," I told her. "They're bringing lies to the press conference." And 4. As noon approached, I stood in my living room, dressed in my best suit, the one I'd worn to Margaret's funeral, now pressed for a different kind of reckoning. The pain of Ethan's complicity was a constant ache. Each new lie, fake contracts, bribery claims, forged photos, a fresh cut in a heart already scarred. I wanted to call him, to plead for the boy who'd once loved me. But the man who'd built Whitaker Construction didn't beg. I opened my briefcase, packed with evidence, forged contracts, Lila's threatening texts, Nate's voicemails, Ethan's signatures. Every document was a weapon, every truth a bullet. Then, one final blow. A text from Jake. "Robert, check your email. Someone hacked your company's server and leaked fake invoices to the Gazette, claiming you overcharged clients for years." I opened my laptop, my hands shaking, and found the email a smear campaign designed to ruin my business before I could speak. The invoices, fabricated by Lila's tech-savvy hands, were convincing enough to fool anyone who didn't know my books. The pain of their relentless assault was a vice around my heart, but as I looked at Margaret's photo, her strength fueled mine. They'd tried to destroy me, but I was still standing. I wasn't just fighting for justice anymore, I was fighting for my life. I texted Diane, "Release our evidence to the press now. Let's beat them to the punch." EMSO. As I drove to the press conference, the Boise streets blurred past. Each corner a reminder of the life I'd built and the family I'd lost. Ethan's betrayal was a wound that wouldn't heal, but today, I'd show the world who Robert Whitaker really was. They wanted to paint me as a criminal? I'd expose their lies in front of every camera in Idaho. The war was reaching its climax, and I was ready to strike. The Four Seasons ballroom was a powder keg, the air thick with shock as the projector burned with my Truth Bank statements exposing $5 million in payments to Ethan and Vanessa, a $1 million offshore theft, and $200,000 in kickbacks to Jake. The crowd's outrage drowned Vanessa's screams, her red dress a fading beacon of defiance as Denver's elite turned against her. Sophia's venomous smirk had vanished, and Richard's Rolex-clad bravado crumbled under the weight of undeniable evidence. Carla's betrayal playing both sides stung, but Ethan's absence was the deepest wound, his signatures on their schemes, a silent confession of his betrayal. Clara's memory held me upright, her strength a fire in my veins. But the pain of my son's choice was a storm threatening to break me. I'd turned the gala into my stage, but the battle wasn't over. They'd fight back, and I had to be ready. As the crowd's murmurs grew into a roar, Vanessa shoved her way to the front, her face contorted with rage. "You lying old bastard," she screamed, her voice raw with street-tough venom, echoing through the ballroom. "You think you can waltz in here with your fake-ass papers and ruin us? You're a broke nobody, Harper, a pathetic fucking relic who can't handle the real world. We'll sue your ass into the ground." Her words were a Molotov cocktail, meant to incinerate my credibility, but the crowd's eyes were on the screen, where Ethan's signature on the offshore account glowed like a guilty verdict. My heart clenched. Ethan, my boy, was letting her fight his battles, abandoning me to her venom. I wanted to run to him, to demand why he'd chosen this. But Clara's voice whispered, "Stand tall, Will." Before I could respond, Richard stormed forward, his face purple with fury. "You're done, you washed-up piece of shit," he bellowed, his East Coast polish replaced by a Denver street snarl. "You think you can embarrass my family? We'll make sure every rich fuck in this city knows you're a crazy old coot who faked his way to relevance. You're nothing." The insults were a barrage, each one a reminder of the $5 million I'd given, now repaid with their contempt. The pain of Ethan's silence was a blade, twisting with every memory of his childhood laughter. I wanted to collapse, to beg for his forgiveness, but Tom's hand on my shoulder steadied me. "They're losing, Will," he whispered, his loyalty a shield. "Keep going." Then came the first shock. The ballroom doors burst open, and Ethan walked in, his face pale, his suit wrinkled like he'd been up all night. The crowd parted, eyes darting between us. My heart stopped. He was here, my son, the boy I'd raised, now a stranger who'd signed away my legacy. "Dad," he said, his voice cracking. But before he could continue, Vanessa spun on him, her eyes wild. "You shut the fuck up, Ethan," she screamed. "You're gonna let this old fuck ruin us? He's lying, and you're too weak to stop him." The betrayal was a sledgehammer. Ethan wasn't here to defend me. He was caught in their web, torn between his wife's rage and his father's truth. My chest ached, torn between love for him and the fury of his complicity. The second shock hit like lightning. Greg Walsh, the reporter, pushed through the crowd, waving his phone, his face smug. "Harper, you're finished," he shouted, his voice dripping with street swagger. "I've got new dirt texts from you, begging Vanessa for money, proving you're a broke-ass fraud. Front page tomorrow, old man." He held up his phone, showing doctored screenshots of messages I'd never sent, claiming I'd pleaded for $50,000 to save Harper and Sons. The crowd gasped, but Maria, who'd slipped into the ballroom, grabbed my arm. "They're fake, Will," she hissed, pulling up her laptop. "I traced the metadata they forged those texts this morning." Her loyalty was a lifeline, but Ethan's silence as Greg waved the lies was a fresh wound. My son, standing there, didn't deny it. The third shock was the cruelest. Marcus Tate, the crooked lawyer, stepped forward, holding a legal document. "Mr. Harper, you're under investigation," he declared, his voice slick with menace. "The IRS has been tipped off about unreported income, $2 million, hidden in shell companies." Ethan provided the evidence. My vision blurred, the ballroom spinning. Ethan, my own flesh and blood, had fabricated a tax fraud case against me, using my own money to frame me. The betrayal was a skyscraper collapsing, each floor a memory of his childhood trust, his first fishing trip, his college graduation crushed under his greed. I stared at him, his eyes avoiding mine, and the pain was unbearable. I wanted to scream, to grab him and shake the truth out of him, but Clara's voice held me back. "You're stronger than this." The crowd was in chaos, voices rising in accusation, but I felt the weight of their eyes on me, waiting for me to crumble. Vanessa's laughter rang out, sharp and cruel. "Told ya, you old fuck," she taunted. "You're done. Go back to your shitty Aurora dump and rot." The humiliation was a tidal wave, threatening to drown me. I pictured Ethan as a boy, his hand in mine, promising to make me proud. Now, he was framing me for crimes I didn't commit, letting his wife and her cronies destroy me. The temptation to give up, to walk away and let them win, was a siren's call. But Tom's steady presence and Maria's fierce glare anchored me. I stepped forward, my voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. $2 million in fake IRS claims? I said, holding up my briefcase. "Let's talk about the real fraud, your $1 million offshore account, Vanessa, and the $75,000 payment to Marcus to cover it up. Ethan, care to explain your signature?" The crowd gasped, heads turning to Ethan, who shrank under their scrutiny. Vanessa's face went green, her bravado crumbling. Richard tried to interrupt, but I pressed on. "And these texts?" I nodded to Maria, who projected the metadata, proving the forgery. "You thought you could bury me with lies, but the truth is out." The ballroom erupted, Denver's elite shouting questions at Vanessa and Richard. Sophia slipped toward the exit, but security blocked her, alerted by Tom's AV friend. Ethan's eyes met mine for a fleeting moment, filled with shame, but he said nothing. The pain was a dull ache now, overshadowed by the fire of my resolve. Clara's strength surged through me as I faced the crowd. "I gave my son everything," I said, my voice steady. "They repaid me with theft and lies. Tonight, you see who they really are." Vanessa's scream was lost in the crowd's outrage, and I knew this war was mine to win. The Four Seasons ballroom was a cauldron of chaos, the air crackling with the fallout of my revelations, $5 million in payments to Ethan and Vanessa exposed, $1 million stolen offshore, $200,000 in kickbacks to Jake, and a forged IRS claim of $2 million pinned on me. Vanessa's screams were drowned by the crowd's outrage, Sophia's venomous confidence shattered, and Richard's Rolex-clad arrogance reduced to ash. Ethan's fleeting, shame-filled glance had pierced my heart, his silence a louder betrayal than any of their lies. Clara's memory was my anchor, her strength pushing me to stand tall, but the pain of my son's complicity was a storm threatening to break me. The gala was my battlefield now, and I'd drawn first blood, but the war was far from over. They'd strike back, and I was ready to meet them head-on. As the crowd's accusations swelled, Vanessa clawed her way to the microphone, her face a mask of fury. "You're a lying piece of shit, Harper," she shrieked, her voice raw, with Denver street venom, cutting through the ballroom like a chainsaw. "Think you can play us with your fake-ass sob story? You're a broke old fuck, scraping by in your shitty Aurora dump. We'll bury you so deep, you'll wish you'd stayed in your lane, you pathetic bastard." Her words were a flamethrower, meant to incinerate my resolve, but the crowd's eyes were locked on the projector. where Ethan's signature on the forged company transfer glowed like a death sentence. My heart twisted. Ethan, standing at the edge of the room, let her spew her venom without a word. I wanted to run to him, to beg him to choose me, but Clara's voice held me firm. "You're enough, Will." Before I could respond, Lisa Carter stormed forward, her designer heels clicking like gunshots. "You're done, you washed up loser," she spat, her voice dripping with street-tough scorn. "You think you can waltz in here and ruin us? We've got dirt on you that'll make this crowd puke. Affairs, tax evasion, you name it. You're a nobody, Harper, and we'll make sure Denver spits on your grave." The lies were a gut punch. Lisa's betrayal, a fresh wound. She'd once been my protege, now wielding my trust like a weapon. The pain of Ethan's silence was unbearable, his refusal to defend me a betrayal deeper than their insults. I wanted to collapse, to let the grief consume me, but Tom's steady presence at my side was a lifeline. "They're desperate, Will," he whispered. "Finish this." Then came the first shock. The ballroom side door slammed open, revealing Eleanor Prescott, Vanessa's mother, her fur coat, a symbol of her East Coast elitism. She marched in, clutching a tablet, her eyes blazing with contempt. "William Harper, you disgrace," she bellowed, her voice a mix of high society and street venom. "You think you can smear my family? We've got proof you bribed city officials $500,000 to secure your contracts. Ethan gave us the records." The crowd gasped, heads swiveling to me. My heart stopped. Ethan, my son, had fabricated another lie, claiming I'd bribed officials to build Harper and Sons. The betrayal was a skyscraper, collapsing. Each floor, a memory of his childhood trust crushed under his greed. I stared at him, his eyes downcast, and the pain was a physical force, choking me. The second shock hit like a thunderbolt. Greg Walsh, the reporter, jumped onto the stage, waving a USB drive. "I've got video, folks," he shouted, his voice dripping with Colfax swagger. Harper caught on tape, drunk and ranting about burning down his own company. Ethan leaked it to us. The screen flickered, showing a grainy video me stumbling outside a bar, slurring words I'd never said. The crowd murmured, doubt creeping in, but Maria, quick as lightning, grabbed her laptop. "It's deepfake," she hissed, pulling up forensic software. "The audio's spliced and the timestamps don't match. They faked it yesterday." Her loyalty was a beacon, but Ethan's role in this lie was a fresh wound, his betrayal a blade twisting in my chest. I wanted to scream, to demand why he'd gone this far, but Clara's strength held me upright. The third shock was the cruelest. Carla Reyes, the PR shark, stepped forward, her neutral facade gone, replaced by a sneer. "You're pathetic, Harper," she said, her voice low and vicious. "I told Vanessa everything. Your lawyer, your plans, every move. You thought I was on your side? I've been feeding them your playbook for weeks." The crowd gasped, realizing Carla's double dealing. Her betrayal was a sledgehammer she'd posed as my ally, promising to broker peace while selling me out to Vanessa. The pain of Ethan's complicity burned hotter, his silence as Carla spoke, confirming he'd known about her treachery. I pictured him as a boy, his hand in mine, promising to make me proud. Now, he was letting them dismantle my life, piece by piece. The ballroom was a war zone, Denver's elite shouting accusations, their faith in Vanessa and her family crumbling. I felt their eyes on me, waiting for me to break, but Maria's fierce glare and Tom's steady hand on my shoulder kept me grounded. Vanessa lunged at the projector, screaming, "Turn this fucking thing off!" But the screen shifted to a new document, a legal filing signed by Ethan, claiming I'd gifted Harper and Sons to Vanessa, backed by a forged letter in my handwriting. The crowd's outrage peaked, voices demanding answers. My heart screamed for Ethan, for the boy who'd once loved me, but his silence was a death knell. The temptation to give up, to walk away and let them win, was a whisper in my ear, but Clara's voice roared louder. "You built this, Will. Don't let them take it." I stepped to the microphone, my voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. $500,000 in fake bribes? A deepfake video? A forged company transfer? I held up my briefcase, pulling out the originals. Here's the truth. $5 million I gave my son, stolen by his wife. $1 million offshore, with Ethan's signature. And Carla's emails, proving she betrayed me to them. I nodded to Maria, who projected the evidence, each document a nail in their coffin. The crowd erupted, turning on Vanessa, Richard, and Lisa. Ethan's eyes met mine, filled with shame, but he said nothing. The pain was a dull ache now, overshadowed by my resolve. I faced the crowd, Clara's strength surging through me. "I built an empire for my family," I said, my voice steady. "They repaid me with lies and theft, Tonight, you see their true colors. Vanessa's scream was lost in the crowd's fury, and Richard's face went gray. Sophia was cornered by security, her escape blocked. Ethan stood frozen, a stranger in my son's skin. The gala was no longer their victory, it was mine, and I was ready to finish this war. The Four Seasons ballroom was a smoldering ruin of Vanessa's empire. The crowd's outrage, a deafening roar, as my evidence, $5 million in payments, $1 million stolen offshore, $200,000 in kickbacks to Jake, and a forged $2 million IRS claim stripped away their lies. Vanessa's screams were swallowed by the chaos, Sophia's escape thwarted by security, and Richard's arrogance reduced to a pale, trembling shell. Ethan's shame-filled glance, his silence louder than any insult, was a wound that bled with every heartbeat. Clara's memory was my steel, her strength urging me forward, but the pain of my son's betrayal was a relentless storm, threatening to shatter my resolve. I'd turned their gala into my triumph, but the war wasn't over. They'd strike back with venom, and I had to be ready to finish this. As the crowd's accusations peaked, Vanessa grabbed the microphone, her voice a raw, street-tough snarl that echoed through the chaos. "You think you've won, you miserable old fuck?" she screamed, her eyes wild with desperation. "You're a broke-ass nobody, Harper. A pathetic piece of shit who's gonna regret crossing us. We'll burn your sorry life to the ground, you fucking fossil." Her words were a wildfire, meant to torch my victory. But the crowd's eyes were glued to the projector, where the forged company transfer signed by Ethan glowed like a scarlet letter. My heart twisted, Ethan's silence, a deeper betrayal than Vanessa's venom. I wanted to run to him, to shake him and beg for the son I'd lost, but Clara's voice held me firm. "You're stronger than they know, Will." Before I could respond, Eleanor Prescott shoved forward, her fur coat a symbol of her crumbling empire. "You're a disgrace, Harper," she shrieked, her voice a mix of high society disdain and Colfax Street venom. "You think you can ruin my daughter? We've got proof you assaulted a city official caught on camera, you violent old bastard. Ethan gave us the footage." The crowd gasped, heads turning to me. My stomach dropped. Ethan, my boy, had fabricated another lie, accusing me of a crime I'd never committed. The betrayal was a skyscraper, crumbling, each floor, a memory of his childhood trust, his first baseball game, his proud hugs reduced to ash. I stared at him, his eyes fixed on the floor, and the pain was a physical force, choking my breath. The first shock hit like a grenade. The projector flickered, showing a grainy video, not the deepfake Greg Walsh had tried, but a new one, allegedly me shoving a city councilman outside a bar. The crowd murmured, doubt creeping in, but Maria, ever vigilant, was already at her laptop. "It's another fake," she shouted, projecting metadata that revealed the video was edited hours ago, with Ethan's email approving its release. Her loyalty was a lifeline, but Ethan's complicity was a fresh wound, his betrayal a blade that cut deeper with each lie. I wanted to scream, to demand why he'd gone this far. But Tom's steady hand on my arm kept me grounded. "They're panicking, Will," he whispered. "You've got them." The second shock was a lightning bolt. Greg Walsh, the slimy reporter, climbed onto a table, waving a stack of papers. "Harper's a fraud," he bellowed, his voice dripping with street swagger. "I've got bank records, $300,000 in unreported cash, stashed in his mattress like some paranoid old fuck." Ethan confirmed it. The crowd's murmurs grew, but Maria was ready, projecting my clean financials, verified by an independent auditor. "Those records are forged," she declared, showing Greg's email to Vanessa, planning the smear. The crowd's outrage turned on Greg, but Ethan's role in this lie was a sledgehammer. My son, who'd once promised to make me proud, was framing me as a criminal, using my own money against me. The pain was a tidal wave, threatening to drown me. The third shock was the cruelest. Marcus Tate, the crooked lawyer, stepped forward, holding a new document. "Harper's company is bankrupt," he announced, his voice slick with menace. Ethan provided proof $1 million in hidden debts, tanking Harper and Sons. "He's a failure, and he's dragging you all down with him." The crowd gasped. But Daniel, my lawyer, who'd slipped into the ballroom, was ready. "That's a lie," he said, projecting a certified audit showing Harper and Sons' $7 million net worth. Marcus forged those debts, and Ethan signed off. The betrayal was a skyscraper collapsing. Each floor a memory of Ethan's love, his first job with me, his pride in our work crushed under his greed. I stared at him, his face a mask of shame, and the pain was unbearable, a scream trapped in my throat. The ballroom was a war zone, Denver's elite shouting accusations as Vanessa's empire crumbled. Vanessa lunged at me, her nails clawing the air. "You're fucking done, Harper," she screamed. "You think you can humiliate us? We'll make sure you're begging on the streets, you pathetic old fuck." Her venom was a last gasp, but the crowd's eyes were on Ethan, who stood frozen, a stranger in my son's skin. I wanted to collapse, to let the grief of his betrayal consume me. Clara's face flashed before me, her eyes pleading for strength. The temptation to walk away, to spare myself the pain of facing my son's treachery, was a siren's call, but Maria's fierce glare and Tom's steady presence anchored me. I stepped to the microphone, my voice ablaze through the chaos. $300,000 in fake cash? $1 million in forged debts? A staged assault? I held up my briefcase, pulling out the originals. Here's the truth: $5 million I gave my son, stolen by his wife. $1 million offshore. $75,000 to Marcus, all with Ethan's signature. I nodded to Daniel, who projected the final evidence: Marcus's emails to Vanessa, planning the bankruptcy lie. The crowd erupted, turning on Vanessa, Richard, and Eleanor. Ethan's eyes met mine, filled with regret, but he said nothing. The pain was a dull ache now, overshadowed by my resolve. I faced the crowd, Clara's strength surging through me. "I built Harper and Sons for my family," I said, my voice steady. "They repaid me with lies and theft. Tonight, Denver sees the truth." Vanessa's scream was lost in the crowd's fury, and Marcus's smug grin faltered. Sophia was dragged back by security, her escape thwarted. Ethan stood alone, a ghost of the boy I'd raised. The gala was mine, and as I walked off the stage, I knew this war was over, but the cost was my son's love, a wound that would never fully heal. The Four Seasons ballroom was a graveyard of Vanessa's ambitions, the echoes of her screams fading as Denver's elite turned on her, Richard, and their allies. There lies $5 million in stolen payments, $1 million siphoned offshore, $200,000 in kickbacks to Jake, and fabricated claims of my crimes laid bare on the projector screen. Ethan's silence, his shame-filled eyes avoiding mine, was a wound deeper than any insult, a betrayal that carved out my heart. Clara's memory was my anchor, her strength pushing me through the chaos, but the pain of my son's complicity was a relentless tide, threatening to pull me under. I'd won the gala, turned their stage into my triumph, but the victory was hollow, tainted by the loss of the boy I'd raised. As I left the ballroom, their empire in ruins, I knew the war wasn't over. They'd come for me again, and I had to be ready to end this for good. The Denver night was a cold slap as I stepped into the parking lot, the city's skyline, a jagged reminder of the empire I'd built and the family I'd lost. My phone buzzed, a voicemail from Sophia, her voice a venomous hiss of street-tough venom. "You think you're hot shit now, Harper, you old fuck," she spat, her words dripping with Colfax swagger. "You ruined nothing, you broke-ass loser. We're gonna drag your sorry ass through every court in Denver. Make sure you're eating out of dumpsters by spring, you pathetic bastard." Her cruelty was a flamethrower, meant to burn away my victory, but it was Ethan's absence that cut deeper. My son, who'd let her and Vanessa tear me apart, was nowhere to be found. I wanted to call him, to beg for one last chance to save him, but Clara's voice held me back. "You're enough, Will. Keep fighting." I drove back to my Aurora bungalow, the cracked driveway, a symbol of the sacrifices I'd made. $5 million poured into Ethan's life, now repaid with betrayal. Inside, the house was quiet, the walls echoing with memories of Clara's laughter and Ethan's childhood. I sank into my recliner, the pain of his treachery a physical weight, crushing my chest. I pictured him as a boy, his eyes bright with trust, as we built model rockets in the backyard. Now, he was a stranger, signing lies that framed me as a criminal. The temptation to give up, to let the grief consume me, was a siren's call, but Maria's fierce loyalty and Tom's steadfast support were my anchors. Then came the first shock. My phone pinged with a text from Daniel, my lawyer, forwarded from a contact at the Denver Post. Vanessa had filed a countersuit that morning, accusing me of defamation and emotional distress, demanding $3 million in damages. The suit claimed I'd fabricated the gala's evidence, with Ethan's sworn affidavit backing her lies. My heart stopped. Ethan, my own flesh and blood, was doubling down, testifying against me to save his wife's crumbling empire. The betrayal was a skyscraper collapsing, each floor a memory of his love, his first day at Harper and Sons, his pride in our work reduced to rubble. I wanted to scream, to drive to his mansion and demand answers, but the pain pinned me to the chair. The second shock hit like a thunderbolt. Tom burst through my door, his face pale, clutching a stack of documents. "Will, you need to see this," he said, his voice tight with rage. He spread out a series of emails between Vanessa and a private investigator, hired to plant drugs in my truck cocaine, enough to frame me for trafficking. The emails dated yesterday included Ethan's approval. "Do it. He's a problem." My vision blurred, the room spinning. Ethan wasn't just framing me for financial crimes. He was willing to send me to prison to protect Vanessa. The betrayal was a tidal wave, drowning the last shred of hope I'd held for him. I pictured his boyhood smile, now replaced by a man who'd sell his father to save himself. The third shock was the cruelest. My phone buzzed with a video call from Eleanor Prescott, her face, a mask of high society disdain twisted with street venom. "You're a dead man, Harper, you fucking lowlife," she snarled, her voice echoing through my quiet house. "You think you can humiliate my family? We've got to witness your own sister, Laura, saying you threatened to kill Ethan if he didn't obey you. You're done, you washed-up piece of shit." The call ended, leaving me frozen. Laura, my loyal sister who'd invited me to her Christmas when Ethan cast me out, had been coerced into lying against me. I called her, my hands shaking, and her voice was a tearful whisper. "They threatened my kids, Will. I'm so sorry." The betrayal was a sledgehammer, my own family, turned against me by Vanessa's threats, with Ethan's complicity sealing the wound. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in as the triple betrayal, Ethan's affidavit, the drug frame-up, and Laura's coerced lie crushed me. I wanted to collapse, to let the pain swallow me whole. Ethan's face as a boy, beaming at me from the sidelines of his soccer games, clashed with the man who'd framed me for crimes I didn't commit. The temptation to give in, to sign Vanessa's settlement and walk away, was a whisper in my ear. But Maria's voice cut through, her figure appearing in my doorway, her eyes blazing. "They're scared shitless, Will," she said, her loyalty a fire in the dark. "You've got the evidence, the truth. Don't let them win." I opened my laptop, pulling up the banking records and emails, my fingers trembling with rage and grief. "Daniel," I said into the phone, my voice cold as the Denver night. "File a counter. Lawsuit. Defamation, fraud, conspiracy. Hit them with everything. And get the police on that drug setup. We're ending this." Tom nodded, his steady presence a shield, while Maria's grin was a warrior's. As I hung up, Clara's strength surged through me, her memory a beacon. I looked at the photo of us on the mantel, her smile, a reminder of who I was, a man who'd built an empire from nothing, who'd loved his son fiercely, even when that love was betrayed. Vanessa and her vipers had tried to break me, but they'd only forged a weapon. The war was mine to win, and I'd fight until their lies were dust. The Denver spring bloomed with a promise of renewal, but my heart still bore the scars of a winter that had torn my world apart. The Four Seasons Gala had been my battlefield, where I'd exposed Vanessa's theft of $1 million offshore, Jake's $200,000 kickbacks, and a web of lies, fake IRS claims, forged company transfers, and staged videos, all backed by Ethan's signatures. The countersuit for $3 million, the drug frame-up, and Laura's coerced testimony had been their final blows. But I'd fought back, my truth shattering their empire. Ethan's silence, his betrayal deeper than any insult, was a wound that lingered, a dull ache beneath my victory. Clara's memory had carried me through, her strength a beacon, but the cost was my son's love, a loss that haunted my quiet Aurora mornings. As I sat on my porch, sipping coffee and watching the neighborhood kids ride bikes, I knew the war was over, but the lessons of betrayal, knowledge, and resilience were just beginning to shape my new life. The morning was crisp, the air carrying the scent of blooming lilacs, a stark contrast to the chaos of that December night. My bungalow, once a symbol of sacrifice, was now a sanctuary, new paint on the walls, a repaired porch light, all funded by the money I'd reclaimed from Ethan's frozen accounts. Maria and Tom had stood by me, their loyalty a testament to the knowledge that true family chooses you, not your wallet. But the pain of Ethan's betrayal was a shadow, creeping into my thoughts. I pictured him as a boy, his laughter filling this very porch, now replaced by a man who'd chosen Vanessa's glittering lies over his father's love. The temptation to call him, to offer one last olive branch, was a whisper, but Clara's voice was louder. "You've learned your worth, Will." Then came the first shock. My phone buzzed with a voicemail from Vanessa, her voice a venomous snarl of Denver street venom. "You think you've won, you broke-ass old fuck?" she hissed, her words dripping with Colfax swagger. "You ruined my life, Harper, you pathetic piece of shit. I'm coming for you, courts, streets, whatever it takes. You're gonna wish you'd stayed in your shitty little hole. The venom was a last gasp, but it stung. A reminder of the $5 million I'd poured into her life, now repaid with hatred. The pain of Ethan's absence burned hotter. He hadn't called, hadn't fought for me, even as his wife's empire crumbled. I wanted to believe he could change, but the knowledge of his betrayal was a weight, crushing that hope. The second shock hit like a thunderbolt. Tom arrived, his face grim, clutching a letter from the county court. Vanessa had escalated her countersuit, now claiming I'd extorted her for $4 million. With a new witness, my old business partner, Ray Coleman, who'd retired to Boulder. The letter included Ray's affidavit, swearing I'd threatened to ruin his reputation if he didn't lie for me. My heart stopped. Ray, who'd built Harper & Sons with me, who'd toasted Clara's memory at her funeral, had been bought or coerced. The betrayal was a skyscraper collapsing, each floor a memory of our shared dreams crushed under Vanessa's manipulation. I called Ray, my voice trembling, and he confessed, his voice breaking. They offered me $200,000, Will. I'm sorry. The pain was a tidal wave. Another trusted ally turned against me. The third shock was the cruelest. My doorbell rang, and I opened it to find Ethan, his face haggard, his eyes red with tears. Dad, he whispered, stepping inside. But before I could speak, Vanessa's voice roared from his phone on speaker. You're a fucking traitor, Ethan, she screamed. You think you can crawl back to your daddy now? You're as pathetic as that old fuck, a spineless loser who'll never be anything. The venom was a flamethrower, revealing a new betrayal. Ethan had tried to leave her, to come to me, but she'd recorded his plea and sent it to Sophia, who'd leaked it to a local gossip blog. The post, already viral, called Ethan a weakling who'd betrayed his wife for a washed-up old man. The crowd's judgment was swift, but Ethan's attempt to return was a flicker of hope, drowned by the pain of his earlier choices. I wanted to hug him, to forgive him, but the knowledge of his signatures on those lies held me back. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in as the triple betrayal Ray's affidavit, Vanessa's escalated suit, and Ethan's public humiliation crushed me. I looked at my son, his face a mirror of the boy I'd loved, now broken by his own choices. The temptation to forgive, to rebuild, was a siren's call, but Clara's voice roared. Knowledge is power, Will. Teach him the lesson. I sat Ethan down, my voice steady despite the storm in my chest. You chose her lies, Ethan. $5 million, a company, my trust all gone. But you're here now. Why? He sobbed, his words barely audible. I was wrong, Dad. I let her control me. I want to fix this. The pain was unbearable, a war between love and justice, but the knowledge of his betrayal demanded accountability. I called Daniel, my voice cold. File for full recovery of the $5 million, add Ray to the lawsuit, and shut down that blog. Maria, who'd arrived with Tom, nodded, her loyalty unwavering. You're teaching them a lesson, Will, she said. Knowledge is strength. As Ethan cried, I felt Clara's presence, her strength guiding me. I looked at him, my heart breaking but resolute. You want to fix this? Start with the truth. No more lies. He nodded, and for the first time, I saw a glimmer of the boy I'd raised. The lesson was clear. Betrayal, no matter how deep, doesn't define you, knowledge does. The education of standing up, of valuing yourself, is the greatest gift. I'd lost my son for a time, but the knowledge of my worth, learned through pain, was my victory. Vanessa's empire was dust, her allies scattered, and Harper & Sons thrived under new management, free of their greed. I rebuilt my life, surrounded by true family Maria, Tom, and now, tentatively Ethan, who was learning the hard lesson of accountability. To you, watching this on RevengeX, I ask, what's your story of betrayal? How has knowledge shaped your fight? Hit that subscribe button, like, and share on RevengeX for more stories that hit the heart. Share your thoughts below. How does this connect to your life? Your voice matters, and we're here to hear the education of your heart. Wishing you all strength, health, and peace. Health in body, health in spirit. Stay strong, stay educated, and live with the knowledge that you're enough. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.